What's up, everybody? It's Harry Tidgewell here from the Shot Clock Sports Podcast. I'm joined once again by Gehrig Segman and Ben Cantor. Guys, we'll get more into that breaking news later, but I'm sure you're feeling very different today based off who you root for in baseball.
I'm feeling great. Never felt better. Daddy Steve Cohen spending the money. Never felt better.
Gehrig, how about you?
I can change his mind in 2 minutes.
Well,
I'm low-key kind of happy right now.
that is going to be one of the main points today, talking about Juan Soto going to the Mets. 15 years, $760 million with
65.
with a lot in incentives.
Yankees offered 760 because they're
Yeah.
poor.
So we're going to be getting into that. We're going to get into college football playoff. That came out this Sunday. Lots to talk about there. And then we'll wrap up with some NFL. Just talk about what we think the league's looking like headed into the final weeks of the season. All right, so let's start. Juan Soto, as you just heard, 15 years, $765 million. That's blows away the record that Ohtani had just set last year. We got Ben, you're a Mets fan. Gehrig, you're a Yankees fan. What do we think about this deal? I'll just ask it plain and simple. What do we think?
I'll let Ben go first just because I want him to have his little honeymoon.
All right, let's go, Ben.
When I first saw it, I was super, super happy, obviously. Taking the last 24 hours, I'm a little nervous because we did just spend $765 million on one player. So there's a lot of eyes on him. But I think he slots in perfectly as that last lefty bat that we really need to round out our lineup. We have Nimmo as that other lefty. Now you have Jose Siri or Tyrone Taylor to probably start in center field. And if you can get Alonso back, I really like that lineup. I like the addition of Clay Holmes and Frankie Montes just to bolster up the starting pitching. But I really think Juan Soto's going to love Citi Field. He's a guy that was born for New York, but he was born for the right part of New York, and that's Queens.
Before we go over to Gehrig, I'll say something I know he's going to add on. You guys can take Clay Holmes. I had enough of that guy last year. But sticking to Juan Soto, Gehrig, what do you got to say?
So first I want to preface by saying I hope you realize Clay Holmes is your number 2 starter right now. That's not something you should be proud of.
Hey, chill out. We're getting Corbin Burns. We're chilling.
With what money?
With what money?
Have you met Steve Cohen?
Yeah, you want to get taxed $1 billion?
He said he'll pay whatever.
Okay.
You're acting like you didn't offer the same contract, and you're acting like you're not paying Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton individually a shit ton of money as well.
We didn't offer the same contract. You know why?
You offered $5 million less.
No, buddy. We offered $40 million left. You know why?
Soto. The incentives.
No. This is not no incentive. Soto will opt out after year 5. You know why? Because after year 5, for the last decade of his contract, from age 31 to 41, that's your athletic decline right there. He will be getting an additional $5 million a year from the Mets because when he inevitably opts out, the Mets will just void it by adding $4 million a season. So you guys offered him essentially $805 million for 15 years. He's perhaps he's top 5 greatest hitter I've ever seen. He is one of the worst defenders you will ever watch. Okay? He had a -5 out above average. And he's not fast. He's great offensive. But can he pitch? No. Shohei Ohtani can pitch. He's gotten Cy Young votes. That's why he got paid $700 million. You essentially just overpaid for 10 years of a DH because within the next 5 years, I think it's safe to say that Juan Soto's defensive struggles will catch up to him and he will get kicked out of right field or wherever you play him.
So I'm gonna sort of settle in the middle ground here. I think it was in a great addition by the Mets. I mean, you're adding Juan Soto. If it weren't for a historic Aaron Judge season, is, in my opinion, the MVP of the American League. I think he had a better year than Bobby Witt. But I also think the Mets are absurdly overpaying the guy. Not to say the Yankees offered him big money too, but tying yourself to that much money in baseball, money's guaranteed, man. $765 million with also so much in incentives. And sure, the guy's young, but like Gehrig said, I don't know if by year 5 he's going to be declining, but by year 10, when you're still paying the guy $45 million a year, he's not going to be the same Juan Soto we're seeing right now. So
I mean, look. Here's the thing, though. Giancarlo Stanton is nowhere near his prime, and the Yankees are still paying him $30 million.
We pay him $30 million to do what he did in the postseason.
Okay, and who's to say Juan Soto won't do the exact same thing?
Me.
Yeah, true. But I don't know. I guess it is it's just a game of who's willing to spend the most money now. I mean, and the Mets need pitching. If they're willing to go out there and get Corbin Burns, I mean, that'd be a huge addition. But let's stick with the Yankees here, who lost obviously big with losing Juan Soto. But now they got all this, and they offered him $750 million that now they really have to play with. I mean, they're going to spend a crap ton of money regardless. But what do you guys think the Yankees should do the rest of free agency?
Sell house, clean house.
Yeah, you would. So, a lot of people might disagree with me, but I think we do what the Mets would do here. I think we go and take Pete Alonso. We need a first baseman, and the reason I say Pete Alonso is simply just because he's younger than Christian Walker. I read somewhere today that he's projected to get like a 7 or 8 year deal. I think maybe we should offer him a 5 and just bump the AAV up. I still think he would go for it. I think we offer him maybe $32 million a year. I think he'd accept that. And then you gotta get Burns or Fried. Obviously, I'd prefer Burns, but if we get Fried, it's not the end of the world. And then the name Luis Robert has been dropped.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer Bellinger because Bellinger, he can play the outfield and he can play first base. Those are your two weaknesses right now.
Yeah.
I'm not really looking at third base or second base. I'm fine with keeping Jazz over at the hot corner. I can live with myself if Caleb Durbin's your second baseman. But no matter who we get, Christian Walker or Pete Alonso, I think if either one of them need a day, you're able to just plug Cody Bellinger there or plug Oswaldo Cabrera there, and I'm fine with that. I think Bellinger gives us a lot of flexibility, and I think he's only making like $17 a year.
Yeah,
So-
true. Ben, what do you think?
I mean, it's harder for me. I'm not really like a Yankees fan, but just to oppose Gehrig one more time here, Max Fried's going to be a Boston Red Sox in my mind. There's no doubt about it to me that Max Fried is going to be a Boston Red Sox. And so that really just leaves Corbin Burns as that last big pitching name. A guy that I could definitely see going to the Bronx that you didn't talk about was Teoscar Hernandez. Big bat, played in L.A. He's going to get the money, hits homers. That's what the Yankees are built on. Could definitely see him being a Yankee. As for Alonzo Walker, I was talking to someone about this today. Truthfully, I actually believe that Christian Walker will be the first baseman because I think actually with the Juan Soto signing, Pete Alonso is actually going to want to go back now because he knows that title chase is getting quicker and quicker. They beat the Yankees both times this season. They went far in the postseason, actually went more games with the Dodgers than the Yankees did. So I think he wants to go to a winning team, and I think that's going to be the New York Mets for a good time coming now. And so I see Pete Alonso staying with the New York Mets and Christian Walker probably being the guy for the Yankees. I do like that fit that you talked about with Cody Bellinger. Talking about this with my dad as well. If Pete Alonso does go to the Yankees, I think the Mets will be more inclined to get a guy like Bellinger. Because center field has been their last weak spot really in the outfield. And if they want to move Vientos to first, they can do that and play Beatty at third. And if they want to keep Vientos there, they can play Bellinger at first. But I really think for the Yankees, they have to go out and get Corbin Burns. As much as I'd love, the Mets to get him, I really think that the Yankees are going to be in on him, especially with Roki Sasaki basically already being an LA Dodger.
Yeah.
That pitching market is really flooded out now. And so I think as I said earlier, Max Fried is a Boston Red Sox in my mind already. So, I'm thinking Corbin Burns is also going to be in New York. Whether or not that's the Mets or the Yankees is to be determined. But I was saying that I honestly wouldn't be mad if the Mets don't get him. I was looking at the Mets pitching rotation, bullpen, and starters, and they have 2 lefties combined. So I really would like to see the Mets go out and get a lefty, just to complement the bullpen and maybe get a lefty starter, because David Peterson is our only lefty, and I think Sean Manaea is going to go somewhere like Toronto where he's going to get that big contract. And so I think the Mets need to fill that spot as a lefty. So I see them going out and getting a lefty, which is why I think Corbin Burns will be a Yankee, and I think Christian Walker will be a Yankee, and I think Teoscar Hernandez will be a Yankee.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of ways that the Yankees can go with this. I have one piece that a lot of people are forgetting about is Gleyber Torres is now still a free agent. I heard some rumors that he was headed to the Mariners. I don't really know how true those are.
That just makes so much sense to me.
It does. Yeah, I can see it in my head. The one thing I also did forget to say is I think if Bregman is also going to be in New York, I think at one of those 2 teams, because you can play Bregman at first.
I could not imagine Bregman in New York. I could not imagine that. As I said, I think they should try and re-sign Torres, especially with how strong he finished last year and just played in general.
You know what I see? I can foresee Gleyber Torres in a Minnesota Twins jersey. I don't know why, but I just see it.
Gary Sanchez vibes. He spent some time with the Twins, right?
Look at Gary. Oh, Gary just signed to Baltimore.
Oh, he did, really? That guy's been bouncing around. You forget about how good Gary Sanchez was in 2018.
I will never forget.
Well, he was a New York Met as well.
Dude.
Maybe one of these days we'll do a name all the teams Gary Sanchez has played for. I think he might have hit double digits by now. I'm gonna need to look that up, but I think bringing back Torres would be a big addition. 6.
I can name 6. Yeah.
Then I would say I like Bellinger, sort of like what both of you guys said. I think Bellinger's a great versatile addition to this team. I do think Pete Alonso is an option. I don't think he's what the Yankees need, but I do see a possibility of them going after Alonso. They need a first baseman. I don't think Alonso really fits what the Yankees should be looking for right now. And I actually think Alonso might shy away from the Mets, knowing that the Mets were willing to kind of skip over their franchise guy to go get Juan Soto. Now, Juan Soto's a great player, but I think I would sort of feel personally offended if we'll deal with you later, let us go get the superstar first. So I don't really know what Alonso's doing right now.
That's what every team did, though. Everyone was figuring out what's going on with the Soto situation.
And
everyone waited.
I'll say one thing I really like to say is, you did offer this Soto guy $750 million for the Yankees, and I would love to see them use every bit of that on other guys. Imagine a rotation: Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Corbin Burns. Go get both of them, man. Go spend that money on that pitching staff.
I said earlier, Max Fried is a Boston Red Sox. You guys have to get it out of your mind that he's going to sign anywhere else.
Nope. The Yankees are going to offer him full. They're going to go all in, build this pitching rotation. Then you got Luis Gil.
You want to go all in.
You forget that the Red Sox still offered Soto $700 million. They're owned by a Saudi owner. They have the money.
No, but the Red Sox fan base has been very frustrated with how cheap ownership has been recently. And everyone and their mom offered Soto $700 million. I heard Cleveland offered him $700 million, but it was all deferred money in 150 years.
Yeah,
the Red Sox
Soto sweepstakes was one to remember. Definitely one to remember. But
what I heard was that the Red Sox offer was no deferred money. It was constant AAV, $700 million.
Where do you see that? Just out of curiosity.
My sister was telling me. My sister's a really, really big Red Sox fan, and she has she follows it.
All right, but wrapping up this Yanks talk, I think going to get Bellinger would be a great move. you got to get one of those aces. I think it'd be great to bring in both, but like Ben said, it may not be very realistic with how expensive they are and how many other teams are looking for pitchers. But I don't think the Yankees at all. Losing Soto crushes you, but it also opens up so many other doors. And I think this team still can win without him. You gotta get better other places, because other than Judge, Soto, and the occasional Gleyber Torres, this team really struggled at points in the season. So I think that's something they really got to build on, making that 9 guys on the field that much better to get that go back to the World Series, even have a chance at winning it.
So you mentioned, you said why not go get Burns and Fried. I'd rather get Fried and Sasaki than just Burns.
Okay, but again, unrealistic situation. Sasaki is a Los Angeles Dodger.
Dodgers. Yeah, I think that's set in stone as it is.
And then you also mentioned Gleyber Torres. To me, he's a $100 million over 5-year guy.
Yeah.
I think he gets something similar to what Willy Adames got.
Can you
Maybe
refresh my memory on it? I think Willie was like what, 187 over 7?
Over 7 or 8, yeah. I think if you boil it down to a 5-year contract, it's pretty similar. Because to me, they were both those middle infield guys that could be like interchanged. They both have power. They both feel the ball pretty well. They're both really similar to me. I kind of thought the Giants were either going to get Adames or Torres, and as soon as one went, that the other was then going to ask for something similar. So I could see him again getting maybe 5 years, $120 million.
Yeah, I just did the math. Willy Adames making about 26 a year. I think Gleyber just gets like a couple mil, just less, just because he's not as consistent as Adames, and he's not posting up a 32 home run season.
I mean, if it comes down to a couple million if it's between 23 and 26, I think the Yankees will be willing to pay it.
I don't think so.
I don't think they would either.
I don't agree with that.
Over 3, I say that when the Soto deal was decided by $5 million, but I mean, if it's something that small, I don't know. Then you got to go find another shortstop, which is isn't relevant as it is, especially if you're the New York Yankees.
No, second baseman.
Yeah, second base.
Second base. Excuse
me.
Volpe
at shortstop. I'm a Mets fan, and I know more than you.
Excuse me. Still, you got to go find our shortstop. And I don't know who you're going to go get to replace Torres.
I mean, don't you guys have Peraza?
Caleb Durbin, Cashman, a lot of...
Peraza can't hit, bro.
Yeah, Peraza's a quadruple A guy. Cashman said today that in-house, Caleb Durbin is the favorite. He mentioned Jorvit Vivas and Oswald Peraza as potential camp surprises to get the position.
Yeah.
And then I also just got a notification about 10 minutes ago, a retweet from Ken Rosenthal. The Astros are not shopping, but they're listening in on Kyle Tucker. And who remembers how the Soto trade went last year? I'm not saying anything directly. I wouldn't be opposed to it, however.
Oh, I would. I don't want Kyle Tucker, but
how much do you guys like Kyle Tucker? Do you guys have stuff to offer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we got
Frazier,
Kyle Tucker,
Chance Adams, Miguel Andujar.
One more name I want to throw in there is we've been talking about the Yankees trying to go get a first baseman. What about giving the Ben Rice kid a shot here, man? I mean, he looked great at times last season. Now, what do we think? Can we give the guy a year? I mean, he looked really good.
No.
I mean, 3 homers in a game, Ben Rice. What are we saying here?
Anyone whose last name is Rice does not deserve to be a starter on an MLB team.
I don't know. Personally, I think Ben Rice could be a very successful Yankee and big leaguer.
Hey, I'm down for Ben Rice if it means we, get Corbin Burns, Roki Sasaki, Max Fried, Alex Bregman, Teoscar Hernandez.
Give me Fried, give me Burns, bring back Torres, give me Bellinger. Those are the 4 moves I want to see him make, and get Ben Rice at first base. You guys want to throw in anything else before you head over to CFP?
Um, I'm gonna talk about your Ben Rice thing. I I don't hate it as much as I did 3 minutes ago. When I watched his at bats, they weren't terrible at bats. He was not. It wasn't a bad at bat, but I just I think right now the move isn't let the kids play. It's our what was supposed to be superstar duo of Juan Soto and Aaron Judge
Mm.
was just robbed of us or stripped from us
Yeah,
by little brother.
little brother.
And
Yeah.
I think if Hal wants to make a statement, he has to say, "F that. Welcome to New York, Steve Cohen. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take your guy. I'm gonna take Alonso. I'm gonna bring in Burns, and I'm gonna go trade for Bellinger, Luis Robert. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think Hal needs to make a statement, and letting Ben Rice get a full year's worth of run at first base is not making a statement, and I think that's a recipe for
Disaster.
Yeah.
2023 Yankee season.
I will quickly add that, I mean, Judge, obviously very productive, but he's getting up there, man. What is he now, 32? 31, 32?
I was
I
about
mean,
to bring that up. I was about to bring that up. He has a good arm, but when do you give him the Bryce Harper treatment and maybe throw him at first base?
I actually
2
said
years
that.
old. I mean, he's
today.
you're running out of time to kind of go win that ring while he's at his most productive age. But let's end the Yankees talk there, just 'cause I know Gehrig has to leave us soon. Let's hop into college football playoff announced this Sunday. Couple big things that may or may not have surprised you guys. Titled, I say the biggest one is SMU getting that last spot
It's
over
ridiculous. It's
over
ridiculous.
Alabama. I might have heard some something from the peanut gallery there, but what do we think, guys? What do we think about that?
I mean, I'll go first here because, truth be told, I was surprised, shocked, and upset.
Wow.
SMU has no inside the top 25 victories. What to you about that stat screams college football playoff? Top 15 team in the country.
Yeah.
I agree
Top
that Bama had some bad losses, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, but they had some big wins. Bama, if you want a more competitive game, who are they playing? Penn State, right?
Yeah, Penn State.
Bama gives you a more competitive game than SMU.
Gehrig, what do you got?
I agree. I think for the most part they got it right. However, it is my opinion that Georgia got the most cupcake route.
Ooh.
Yes.
I'm going to rebuttal that one.
I'm sorry, but Boise State's best win is really a loss to Oregon. And you're going to have to go up against probably Penn State. So I got Penn State over Boise State. I think the most of America would agree with me. And then Notre Dame, Indiana, no.
Yeah, no.
No, Georgia's gonna literally dog on whomever they play. So it's Penn State versus Georgia. Penn State has never shown up to a big game.
Yeah, I was about to say I actually don't think Penn State's gonna go far.
Mm-hmm. I'll start with SMU Bama. I agree with what both of you said. Bama is a better team than SMU. But I do think the committee got it right in what this current format is that SMU went into that game ranked 8th, and I don't think you were able to drop them out of the rankings after a loss on a 56-yard game-ending field goal. But what I would like to see is get rid of these CFP rankings every week starting in week 8. What I want to see is just one CFP ranking, end of the year. That way you're not thinking of how far people had to drop, how far people had to go up. It's just one ranking at the end of the year, sort of how college basketball does it, where everyone's just seeded based off of how they finished the year. And I think we would have seen definitely stuff pan out differently. I think maybe Alabama doesn't get the spot. Maybe a team like South Carolina gets the spot because they finished the year better than anybody. And I think that they could have made some noise in this playoff. I think they would have beat Penn State. I think they would have beat Boise State. I think they would have had a shot against Georgia. So I think they should change the system, but in this current format, they got it right. Now, I do want to rebuttal what Gehrig said about Georgia having this easy trip. People are sleeping on the Irish, man. I say this in a somewhat biased way. I've grown up a Notre Dame fan. But let me read you quit sleeping on me. Let me read you these scores since they beat Texas A&M by 10. Then they lose to NIU. I don't want to hear it. That's one loss in week 2 by 2 points. Sure, it was a bad loss, but it was one loss, and Marcus Freeman has stated that is the best thing to happen to this Irish team. And it really was. It really woke them up. They put up 66-7 against Purdue, 28-3 against Miami, Ohio. They beat Louisville, 49-7 against Stanford, 31-13 against Georgia Tech. You beat Navy by 30, Florida State by 50, Virginia by 3 scores, Army by 30, USC by double digits. This is a serious team, and I think
the only real team you named in there was Army. Every other team
USC is still
Maryland beat USC. Billy Edwards Jr. beat USC
in the Coliseum. That's not an easy team to win.
The only good team on that list was Army.
They beat
How many
Louisville when
opponents
they
were
were
ranked
ranked.
top 15?
They beat Louisville when they were ranked.
How many opponents were top 15?
Louisville and A&M. 2.
A&M was 20.
1.
Okay.
I don't want to hear it. You give me Jeremiah Love. He is the second best running back in college football right now. He would be the best if it weren't for this.
Yeah, but you have some below average transfer quarterback.
Riley Leonard's figuring it out.
Riley Leonard is the Daniel Jones of college football. Riley Leonard is the Daniel Jones of college football.
And you got Carson Beck. You don't even know what he's going to be. He couldn't throw the ball to end that game because of his shoulder. Who's Georgia going to play against them? I think Notre Dame I think they take care of business against Georgia. Notre Dame to the championship game. Book it. Now, if they win, I don't know. But I don't see any team getting in Notre Dame's way on their way to the championship, except Georgia, maybe.
You said something about Heisman?
Stat, though. You know what? Let's talk on that briefly.
Wait. Before we do that, though, can I mention one thing about your argument?
Yes.
I liked how Georgia played with Gunnar Stockton. I really like how they played with Gunnar Stockton. If I'm Kirby Smart, I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to be smart. Maybe start Gunnar Stockton, dual threat quarterback. Looked really good against Texas. You ride the hot hand, you play Gunnar Stockton. I like that. If I'm a Georgia fan, I'm thinking Gunnar Stockton.
This is what we're going to fill out a little bracket together. I don't want any reasoning. I just want your pick. Whatever side gets the majority is going to move on. Starting Clemson, Texas.
Clemson.
Texas.
You know, I was gonna make a little case for Clemson, to be Texas. They're gonna get by him. I've heard all this stuff about Cade Klubnik playing great against.
I love Cade Klubnik.
Moving on, Tennessee, Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Flip a coin.
Tennessee.
That really is a flip a coin game.
This comes down to you. Where are we going? I'm going Tennessee. Gehrig is going Ohio State. Who's gonna win?
I got Ohio State. I think they bounce back.
At the shoe.
I think they bounce back.
You know what? The leader of passing give me Tennessee.
All right, Tennessee. Moving on. SMU, Penn State.
Penn State.
Are we even thinking about it?
No.
Penn State, it's a whiteout game. Don't even, it's an after.
Big noon, though. Big noon.
Indiana, Notre Dame.
Indiana.
See that?
I posted my bracket yesterday.
I will give you guys the benefit of the doubt now. I want an apology.
I also picked Indiana in my bracket.
I want an apology by email, by handwritten letter when Notre Dame wins that game. But we got Indiana moving on. Back to the top, Texas, Arizona State.
Arizona State.
No. Texas.
Arizona State. I'm going Arizona State. Moving
That's the
on.
hottest team in college football.
I love Arizona State
Hottest
right
team
now.
in college football.
Tennessee, Oregon.
You see that little running back at the
Tennessee, Oregon.
Oregon.
Oregon, unanimous. Boise, Penn State. Boise.
No.
Give me Boise.
Okay.
Boise's moving on. Indiana, Georgia.
Georgia.
I'm going to take Georgia over Indiana, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, semifinals. Oregon, Arizona State.
Oh,
Don't stop. Let's use
Matchup.
our common sense.
Give me Oregon.
yeah, I gotta go Oregon.
Boise versus Georgia.
Georgia.
Boise versus Georgia.
Georgia. So you got the chalk 1-2. Oregon versus Georgia. Who's taking it home?
Go Dogs!
Gehrig?
He said
Carson.
Oregon. I saw him throw up this.
Carson
Oh,
Beck
so it comes down to me?
Yeah.
All right, I'll lead up some suspense. You know, Georgia, some big wins, some close losses. Carson Beck overrated, but that the rest of that team is so good. Find ways to win, but across other sideline, man, Dan Lanning has built something different at Oregon. Dylan Gabriel, Heisman guy. I've worked for these two historic seasons. He
is currently. They announced the Final Four for Heisman. and Dylan
I saw that. But
Wait, what? They did?
It's Gabriel
and Hunter.
Genty, Hunter, and
But you know what? Give me Oregon to break through. Shot clock sports champion of the CFP is Oregon.
I said something on this
done.
podcast at the beginning of the year when we were talking about Oregon being the number one team in the country, and I'm going to stand by my statement, and is that Oregon is, in theory, looks to be the best team in college football. When it's said and done, they won't win the championship. They're not built for the championship.
I think they got it.
You know what I did see on my TikTok page? I did see a video of Evan Stewart hitting some TikTok dances.
All right, Gehrig, before you leave, I know you got to go in 2 minutes. Give us your highs. I know you've kind of hinted at it. 1 minute, give us why Ashton Genty is your Heisman.
Have you ever seen him run the ball?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that Mountain West chip.
I really shouldn't have to say more.
I agree.
I agree. I love Travis Hunter. He's a phenomenal player, bigger character, and what he's doing right now for college football is insane, especially when you think of NIL and all that. Playing for Deion Sanders, any other year, I think he's the Heisman, but you're looking at a guy breaking records, man.
I
And
want to talk about NIL. Ashton Genty is influencing commitment flips to Boise State.
True. But I
He's
think
losing over 3 seed.
Hunter is doing just as much, if not more, at Colorado. He's bringing in so many guys that are kind of now believing in Deion.
Is that him or Deion, though? Think about it. One's a football Hall of Famer. The other is a college student.
What did I want to add? Also, I saw this interesting thing that if you switch Genty and Travis Hunter, Boise State is not in the playoff. Colorado is. That's what I think makes Ashton Genty so special, and I really hope that he shows it in this playoff. Puts up a big number against Penn State, man. That would be great. So I'm pulling for it. Gehrig, you got to head out now.
Yeah. Appreciate y'all, boys.
See you, man.
Take care, y'all.
Take care.
All right, now that sucker's gone. Um, I'm gonna agree with him on the Ashton Genty take. Definitely think Ashton Genty's the Heisman. I made this point to someone who was saying, "Oh, Travis Hunter's two sides of the ball." In my opinion, he's not the best wide receiver in football. That's McMillan at Arizona, and he's not the best cornerback in college football. That's Will Johnson.
Yeah.
Ashton Genty is the best running back and best player in college football. Period.
Uh-huh.
Heisman.
I do think, Hunter is great on both sides of the ball. He's a good wide receiver. I wouldn't say he's a great wide receiver. He's a good wide receiver and a great cornerback. And what he's doing is not unprecedented. We've seen guys do it in the past, but is insane. But comparing it to what Genty is doing, for me, it's an easy pick. Give it to Genty. He's my Heisman. All right, let's wrap up this episode talking NFL. Week 14 wrapping up tonight. By the time you're watching this, guys, it'll be over. Bengals, Cowboys. But yeah, 4 weeks left in the year, and we're really starting to see things solidify, especially in that AFC. I'm looking at the standings right now. But what are we thinking? Just in general, like what are you thinking right now as you look at the NFL? Is it what you expected in week 1, or is it vastly different?
I don't think it's vastly different. I think it's a little different. I wouldn't have had the Vikings as high as they are. I probably would have said the Lions are the best team in football. I would have said the Chiefs are too, But what I wouldn't have said is that NFC North having 3 playoff teams. I didn't think the Packers were going to be where they are.
NFC North?
Right, yeah, NFC North, sorry. I wouldn't have said the Commanders, or that team. So there's some changes, but overall I think it's pretty similar. I'm a little sad that the Bengals started picking it up so late because they've been so exciting recently. And I say this needing 35 points to advance to the playoffs in fantasy, and owning CeeDee Lamb and Arthur Yoshivas, so praying. But I would have liked to see the Bengals, catch steam a little earlier. Maybe carry that through, not losing week 1 to my Patriots team. That is just horrible. Although, this brings up one thing, and I saw it, and it's that I think the NFL is overlooking the 2 best rookies in the NFL. This could be a little biased. Brock Bowers and Drake May are my 2 favorite rookies in the NFL. Drake May is playing with an abysmal O-line, bad receivers. Jalen Polk isn't really playing that well. Javon Baker's not playing, and you have Kendrick Bourne and Kayshon Boutte and as your number 1 and 2, or Pop Douglas, it's not that great, and he's still looking like he's running that offense, really well. He's made a couple bad decisions, but that's rookies for you. I think that he's looked really good. And then Brock Bowers is playing out of his mind, and people aren't talking enough about it for me. And everyone's talking about Jaden Daniels. He's playing great, but Brock Bowers, man, is playing football.
Yeah,
he is
definitely
football. Wow.
Yeah, it's a shame that the Raiders aren't making any noise. But 2 voice cracks. One thing I want to add before I go on my spiel is, unlike Ben, I've already clinched the playoffs in our fantasy football league. 20 man.
I'm down by 30 points to Carter right now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Whose name is Freakton Dorksky, if you know.
Shout out Carter.
As you can see,
we need a big game from CeeDee Lamb to knock
CeeDee Lamb and Arthur Yoshivas. Please save me.
It helps me out if you beat him because it helps
Gotham is relying on 2 men tonight.
You heard him.
But in the dynasty league, I'm already clinched. So.
In terms of rookies, I love Bowers. He's done great. It's a shame the Raiders suck. But I'll also go with Bo Nix. I'll be real. I didn't believe in the guy at all. I thought he was a college quarterback, a system guy, and with Sean Payton, who's a very fiery, in-your-face sort of guy, I didn't see him succeeding at the NFL level, where it's not. The defense is just so much better. And, he's proved me wrong. Not only is he extremely athletic, His arm talent is insane, and he's been a great decision maker. He's quick, he's decisive, and that's really led to a great last stretch of 6 or 7 games where, sure, he started off slow, but, the Broncos are in playoff contention, and with how this AFC is, you look at the playoff picture, after the 7th team, which is the Broncos, they do have a 2-game lead on the Colts and Dolphins and a 4-game lead on the Bengals. Everyone else is eliminated. So at this point, I think that the Broncos are sitting pretty, fighting for seeding, and could make some noise in the playoffs. I think they could definitely win a game, shock a couple people. He's kind of giving off C.J. Stroud vibes, putting up those big numbers and kind of changing the team morale around on this Broncos team. But jumping over to the NFC, yeah, obviously I'm very surprised that the Vikings have sustained such excellence this year. 11-2. I heard this on the radio earlier, but they're the most 11-2. They're the most slept on 11-2 team I've ever seen. If it weren't for the Lions, they're number 1 in the NFC. Sam Darnold's playing great, just threw for 5 touchdowns. You got Jefferson, Addison. You got Hawkinson, still not fully healthy, still kind of working his way back in. You got Aaron Jones. That's a scary offense. And you got Brian Flores leading what I think is one of the best defenses in the league right now. They're scary, man. They're scary. They're surviving in an NFC North that's just the Packers, the Lions. I think prediction now, the Vikings and Lions will both win out, and their Week 18 matchup will decide who's the 1 seed in the NFC. I think that's how it's going to be. It's going to be a great game to watch. But also, I'll mention the Eagles, man. Also, the Eagles are also slept on. The NFC, other than the Lions, is so slept on right now. The Eagles are hot. They did just escape from the Panthers, but the Panthers have looked a lot better recently. Saquon is, as a Giants fan, I hate to say this, Saquon has looked great. They beat the Ravens. They beat the Rams. They beat the Commanders. And next week's game, I'm really excited for. Eagles-Steelers. I think that's going to be a great game. And we'll really show you where these two teams stand heading into the playoffs on their respective side. A couple divisions I found interesting is the AFC North, the NFC South, and the NFC West. Now let's start with the North. The Steelers, is it over? Are the Steelers, they're 1 win away from clinching the division over the Ravens. Is it all said and done, you think?
I do, but before we do that, there was just one thing I want to do before I forget, and that's to mention I saw a tweet earlier that said that the Vikings and Sam Darnold still have not talked about a contract extension, which obviously puts them in a tricky situation because you have J.J. McCarthy, but he's been hurt. If you're the Vikings, are you giving Sam Darnold the extension? And if not, where does he land?
If I'm the Vikings, it's a no. I think I'm happy for Sam Darnold, the way he revived his career there, but I think McCarthy looked really strong in the preseason, and I don't know if it's as much as Darnold as it is Kevin O'Connell. He's an offensive mastermind, and I think he's put Darnold in scenarios to thrive, and he's thrown to the best 1-2 combo in the league in Addison and Jefferson. So where will he land? That's an interesting question. I don't know. Maybe you see him go back to the Jets. Is that a possibility?
I was thinking about that or the Browns.
Yeah, I don't. It'll be interesting because Jameis, I think, is also a free agent, so he might float around. He could fill in as a bridge quarterback somewhere. Where he'll land, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe the Raiders. I don't know. It kind of depends what teams are thinking on these quarterbacks. The Raiders look like they're interested in Shador, so I wouldn't think he would go there. But yeah, we'll see. I don't think he goes back to Minnesota. I think Minnesota might try and bring back Jones again on like a 1 year, something cheap just to be the backup. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure where he'll end up. The Jets is a very good possibility. But yeah, now back to this AFC North. Do you think the Steelers have this division locked up?
I do. Russell Wilson has looked really good. Najee Harris is finally finding the end zone. We saw even with Pickens hurt that like these other guys are stepping up. In that defense with Minka, Joey Porter Jr., T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, like that is a good team, and I think they get that one more win and they clinch it. And the Ravens are in a tough situation because they're such a good team, but the Steelers are playing out of their mind, and Mike Tomlin always finds a way. So I do think the Steelers will take that division.
Now, one thing I will throw out there is, like I said, they got the Eagles this Sunday. Then
I
the
think
Ravens.
they beat the Eagles.
The Ravens in Baltimore. Then the Chiefs. Then the Bengals in what will probably be a must-win game for the Bengals if they get hot and are trying to make a playoff push. So, I'll agree with you. I think the Bengals and the Steelers going to win somewhere in there. But I do think there's some chance for the Ravens. But it really is, it's remarkable what Mike Tomlin's done with his team. It's just now it's a matter of performing in the playoffs, which Russell Wilson has that experience. So hopefully we get to see some great things out of them. Moving over now, NFC South. It's become a two-team race. Bucks, Falcons. Falcons have looked bad. Bucks are surging. Do you see it staying this way? Do the Falcons have any chance at clawing back into this after a tough loss in Minnesota?
That's hard for me because I like the Falcons a lot, but I also like the Bucks a lot. But I don't know if I can give it to them without Godwin, and Mike Evans hasn't been playing his best football since coming back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
McMillan's been stepping up. At least one of the Washington receivers is stepping up. Jalen Polk, get on it. I'll give it to the Bucks. I think they're sneaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll agree with you again on that one. The Falcons and the Bucks close Chargers. That's a tough game, but then they get Cowboys, Panthers, Saints to end the year. Give me those three games as wins.
I don't know. The Panthers have
got
been some spoilers recently. The Panthers are spoiling teams right now.
The Panthers have been a fun team to watch, and Bryce Young, I'm really happy for the guy. I mean, he's looked really good these past couple of weeks. And I'll admit it. I doubted him. I said this isn't going to work in Carolina. I think the Panthers are 1 year away from being 1 year away at this point. I think next year they're going to show some flashes, similar to how the Lions did just years ago when they got that first. They were 0-10. They get that first win against Minnesota, and things sort of start to turn around. The next season they knock the Packers out of the playoffs. Then the year after that, they're contenders. I do think.
And to add on, I think Dave Canales is doing a great job with this team.
Yeah.
He's letting these young guys play. We're seeing Xavier Legette take a really big role on that offense. Adam Thielen is your veteran who's looked really good. I was lucky enough to pick him up off waivers because he was on the IR. He late in that game when they were on that final drive, Thielen was making some big plays. I think if you buff up that O-line a little bit, you have to decide between Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks. You have guys like J.C. Horn on that defense, but you got to really get that edge rusher to replace Brian Burns. And I think, like you said, you're 1 year away from being 1 year away.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, NFC West. This is, I think, the most interesting. You got the Seahawks 8-5. The Rams 1 game behind them at 7-6. Now the Seahawks have looked good coming off that big win against the Cardinals, Jets. But the Rams, man, win of the year over the Buffalo. I'll say it, win of the year. I think that
they almost blew it though.
Almost blew it, but that was so important for this team. How do you see the NFC West shaking out?
There's one thing it comes down to me for. It's if Kenneth Walker is healthy and they have that nice backfield of Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, I think it's the Seahawks. But if Kenneth Walker continues to keep getting injured, I love Zach Charbonnet, but maybe a few games slip. Here come the Rams. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford always shows up late in the season. Braden Fisk has looked really good on defense. That's a team that could sneak up and take that spot. So I think it's going to be super close. I think it's going to come down. Both these teams have injury problems. Whoever solves them first and keeps them there is going to be that team in the playoffs. I think either way, both these teams lose in the first round. I honestly think that they both really are not built for a long playoff push. But I think if the Seahawks can remain fully healthy, the Seahawks will get it. If not, I see the Rams just coming in and taking it.
Now I'm going to go with the Rams here. They do play each other in Week 18, which very well could decide the division. But I think they get a win against the 49ers this upcoming Thursday. They beat the Jets, they beat the Cardinals. And that gives them a chance headed into Week 18 where I do think they'll beat the Seahawks. Especially because the Seahawks, I mean, they got the Packers this week, then the Vikings. Those are two tough games.
Ooh, okay, so maybe I'm going to change that now that I'm hearing that schedule. With both those, because those are also two teams fighting, right? The Vikings are fighting for this number 1 seed in the bye.
And the Packers are fighting for that number 1 wild card.
So, but the Jets and the Cardinals are both out. So they're just fighting for
a draft
dignity.
pick. They want to lose.
Right? So if the Rams come out there and play mediocre football, they probably win. Right? At this point, with the Jets winning last week, or no, they didn't. It was the Dolphins.
Yeah.
The Jets are all in on, getting this high draft pick and maybe either grabbing a quarterback, that O-lineman you might need, or whatever it is. I actually do think now that I'm hearing that the Rams are going to be that
And
team.
I do want you to hear me out on this. I know you just said the Rams. Either way, you think they're a first-round exit. My Super Bowl pick at the beginning of the year, out of the AFC, was the New York Jets. Now, I do not associate myself with that pick anymore. That team is a disaster. I am never going to say it's the Jets' year ever again. But out of the NFC, it was the LA Rams. Now, I did expect them to kind of go on a little miracle run, but Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp is such a good trio. And Kyron Williams in the backfield, I think with how strong this offense can be, and the defense has been playing solid, I do think the Rams could get a win or two, or even advance to the Super Bowl in the playoffs. I think the NFC is up for grabs. Obviously, the Lions lead that race. But you never know, man. You never know in the playoffs. So I think the Rams. But if it was between the Rams and the Seahawks, who I thought would go farther, I would pick the Rams, no doubt. I think the Rams have a much better chance of advancing. Now, this NFC, obviously, like I just said, the Lions are the team to beat. And there's a lot of other good teams, but I think the Rams could maybe make some noise. Last thing I want to end on now before end of this episode, we're coming up on an hour, is an underrated part of the season is the MVP race. I mean, this is some great stuff. You got Saquon Barkley. I hate to say it as a Giants fan. And Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Herbert, Joe Burrow. What do we think? Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, you can throw them in there if you want. Give me your top 3 guys.
In order?
In order, 3 to 1.
3 to 1? I want to say Burrow at 3, but I don't know if I can because they're not winning. You know what? Screw it. No. I'll Burrow at 3. Give me Lamar at 2. And give me Josh Allen as the MVP.
I like it. What's behind Allen being number 1 here?
I think there were so many question marks when the Bills got rid of Diggs and they really lost this receiving core. People thought that they might take a step down, and if you look at it, they're really taking a step up. That's, to me, I've always said in any sport, the MVP is if you take the player off the team and replace it with the average player at that position, how well does the team perform?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Bills perform without Josh Allen.
Yeah. I love what you're saying about Josh Allen. He's a great player. But I'll hit you with my top 3 now. 3, no matter how much I hate him, I keep saying it. I'll throw it to Saquon. I do think you had Burrow at 3. I think Burrow's having a great year. But yeah, they're 4-8. Unless they heat up, they go 9-8 and make the playoffs. I don't think you can put Burrow top 3. As I stated, you can throw Goff and Darnold in the mix, but they're not the reason why their teams are winning, especially when I said Kevin O'Connell is an offensive mastermind. I think so many quarterbacks could succeed in that game plan and that style. And the Lions are just an overall great team. Not to take anything away from Goff and Darnold. They're both having excellent years, but not MVP years. Herbert, also, I mentioned him, super underrated right now, but just doesn't quite fall into the mix for me. I kind of put him and Burrow tied at 4. I think if the Chargers had beat the Chiefs last night and made a run at the AFC West, I would have considered it. But yeah, they kind of both fall at 4 for me. Put Saquon at 3. He's the best skill position player in football right now. Give me Josh Allen at 2. Like you said, what he's doing for the Bills, the narrative around this team right now is awesome. And he's just been a machine these last couple of weeks. But number 1 for me has got to be Lamar Jackson. He's so good. Like, I watch Ravens games. He's got, let me pull these up. He's got 3 touchdowns on the ground. He's rushed for 700 yards. And through the air,
My goat just got a catch.
3,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, the 3 picks. Sure, he has Derrick Henry in his backfield, but his wide receiver core stinks. Every game I watch, they're dropping everything. It's awful. I
think Zay Flowers is one of the most underrated wide receivers in football.
Zay Flowers, underrated route runner. His hands are bricks. I don't get it. If he
not as rookie as
half
Quentin
the balls
Johnson,
he
all
drops.
right? Let's chill out. Quentin Johnson's got the CeeDee Lamb 13-yard pass.
I mean, just looking at this doesn't tell you everything, but Zay Flowers has 94 targets. He's only caught 60 of those balls. Now, some of those are on Lamar Jackson, but if you look at other wide receivers on this team, no one else stands out more. Excuse me, Nelson Aguilar, who's a notorious.
I was gonna say Aguilar's had the season. He might drop a baby, but like, hey.
But second place has to be Zay Flowers. He's a great route runner and he's a great wide receiver. But if he was an above average catcher, Lamar Jackson I think would be nearing 4,000 yards, and in my opinion is the MVP. I mean, in these late games when he needs to make a play, he uses his legs, he uses his arm, and that is what's so special about Lamar Jackson. I love Josh Allen. He does the same exact thing. He's been carrying this Bills team, but when you just watch the two play, Lamar Jackson looks like he's on another level right now. Give me Lamar to win his 3rd MVP. I do think it'll be Josh Allen because of voter fatigue and the narrative around this Bills team, but my MVP is Lamar Jackson.
All right.
Okay, that's going to do it for this one. Ben, thank you so much for joining us. Shout out Gehrig for joining us earlier this episode. This was a fun one, man. Congrats on getting Soto. Good luck to your fantasy team tonight. CeeDee Lamb, go drop a couple tutties. But yeah, thank you so much.
Princeton. Let's go.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. This is Harry Tidgewell signing off.